Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Building Resilience Love, Learn, Lead, or Let Go. I'm Nakam Al Sumari, and I'm excited to have you here today on this series. And it's all about exploring how to build resilience in our lives and how to make it work for us. And what does that mean for you? We're going to explore it through the principles of love, learn, and lead, or let go. And in today's episode, we're going to go to the foundation of resilience and we're going to talk about what is resilience, what does it mean, and why it matters. Why is it important in our life? You ready? Okay, let's go. As we go through today's episode, I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. What does resilience mean to you? What experiences in life have you gone through of resilience that you'd like to share and that have impacted you, have made a change in your life? What questions do you have about resilience? And I'll be checking throughout to see what questions we have and what comments we have, because this is a group learning experience, and it is very important that we learn together. So let's start with what is resilience. First of all, it's a Latin word. Resilience comes from the Latin word resilire, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and that means it's the ability to bounce back. And I think the original meaning um, refers to objects being able to bounce back, like a ball or an elastic band. Um, and we use it to refer to the idea that we have the ability to bounce back from setbacks in life or being able to adapt to change. We go through a lot of change in our life, things that are unpredictable or unexpected. And we have to make tough decisions. And sometimes these experiences, those tough, rigid moments we go through life, bring us down. And sometimes we move on. Sometimes we don't know how to move on. And so this is where resilience comes in. As I'm talking about this, this brings to mind the wisdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam that says, "Don't be too tough, for you will break, and don't be too soft, for you will be squeezed." True resilience really lies in the balance of how you handle situations, knowing where to stand firm, when to stand firm, and when to bend and move away. Um, I think a year or so ago, I did a short video about the book by John Gordon and Damon West. The book is called The Coffee Bean. And I'm not going to go through the entire story of the coffee bean, but in that book, the authors talk about the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean, and what happens to each of those when are placed in water. When you put a carrot in hot water, it becomes too mushy and too soft and too weak, and you could uh, take it in your hand and just make it into smaller pieces, right? The egg, on the other hand, when you put it in hot water, in boiling water, what happens to it is that it becomes too hardened, right? That's how you get boiled eggs. And I love boiled eggs, but that's what happens to the egg. It becomes too hard for anything. The shell hardens. And the last item, the coffee bean, when you put that in hot boiling water, what you get is coffee. We all love and enjoy coffee. And the story of this all is rather than letting adversity in life change you, harden you, or soften you too much, you have the ability to adapt with your environment. And that coffee bean adapted to the environment of the hot water, creating that lovely drink that we all enjoy as opposed to being a carrot or an egg. I have found in talking to a lot of people that the common misconception about resilience is that people think that you have to be too strong. I've heard this before where where people have said you are resilient, meaning you are tough, you are strong, you've never been affected by difficulties. But that's not true. Resilient doesn't mean you're tough. You're really strong. You're rigid. You can take it. You have tough skin. I have. I'll be honest here. I was guilty of having said that before, being having tough skin or thick skin. But just like the coffee bean, resilience isn't about toughing up. It's about being adaptable, knowing when to bend away from something or lean away from something that's coming towards you, or when to stand up and take it. Having this adaptability, having this mindset of knowing that, yes, one, this is a tough time, acknowledging that this time is something that has happened to you, and you have to kind of look at it and see what can you do about it. Are there things in your control? Are there things outside of your control that you cannot deal with? Instead of having to thinking about the, "Well, this is my life. This is how I live." It's not your life. It's one episode of something that is happening, and it's going to move on, right? So, um just like the coffee bean, resilience isn't about toughing it up. It's about being adaptable, adapting to your current situation, and being able to withstand and then learn from what is happening to you. There's a lot of learning that goes into this, and I'm gonna go through um, uh, the learning process in upcoming episodes. And what this brings a to mind the Chinese proverb that says, "Be like water, flow with the river." What that means, if you go against water, we all know how fast water travels, and how um, really strong the current gets. And what happens if you stand against the current of the water is that you're going to be driven away with it, right? But if you flow with the river, you go where it goes, as opposed to trying to stand in its way, you become more resilient. And sometimes that's what resilience requires. It's moving with life's challenges rather than fighting against them. What challenge have you had in your life? What moment in time that made you rethink things? What uh, situation, issue, problem that you have faced in your life that has really brought you to a brink of not sure what to do, not sure where to go from there. You faced some tough times in your life, and how did you handle them? It's good. It's a good reminder to keep in mind that we all handle things differently. As human beings, we have unique abilities, unique strengths, and we do things differently. And that's not a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is how we learn from each other. We bring that uniqueness in, and we try different things to see what works, right? And then we adapt the one thing that we think, oh, this works. I'm going to use that. Or maybe the two things that work, or maybe the combination of other few other things that work. And that's also part of being resilient is because what you're doing is you're kind of stepping back and looking at the situation that you're in rather than being in the middle of it and thinking that it's happening to you, right? It's the thing that happened to you. Yeah, it's the thing that happened to you, but take a step back and look at it from an observer's point of view and ask, what can I do? What can I try? What can I change? Here is the one word that's really hard for people to digest is change. We go through a lot of changes, and it's really hard for some to um, take and accept change. And sometimes that is the issue. That is the problem here. But change is inevitable. It's how we grow. It's how we learn. It's how we become older. It's how we learn new things. That's how we change. Change isn't always bad, right? Um, so looking at it from that lens of how can I change, or what can I do in order to learn from this and be able to adapt and grow from it, that creates a sense of relief, because when you look at it this way, you're looking at it in a flexible mindset. You're looking at it from, how can I solve this? Is a problem. How can I solve it? And there is a solution. If you look at it and there is no solution, I don't know, I'm in this really big mess and I don't know how to get out of it, and you create more anxiety for yourself and panic that you will not be able to think clearly. Instead, step back, look at it from the observer's point of view and think, okay, there is a way out of this, but let me think about how. Think about, what can I do? So think about a time you have faced a challenge, maybe in your career, maybe in your personal life, maybe something unexpected happened to you. How did you handle it? Did you push through? Did you adjust your approach? Maybe you learned something from the experience, or maybe you realized it was time to let it go. And we're going to talk about, as we go through these different episodes, we're going to talk about letting go more in a more practical sense. But these are all forms of resilience, whether it's loving the experience, going through the tough times, learning, challenging yourself to actually change, and flowing with the water. These are forms of resilience. How did you come out of all this challenge? And what did you learn from it? At the end, for me, I think it's all about the learning that you take away from it, because you come out of that challenge. That's life for you. You have another challenge coming. That's just life, right? So why does resilience matter? Why do we have to learn this? What's the importance of it? So it's critical at a person on a personal level. It's critical for maintaining your mental and your emotional well-being. If you are facing a challenge, an unpredictable change, an uncertainty in your life, and you don't have the resilience to deal with it, a lot of times we create a panic for ourselves and we don't know how to deal with it. And we spiral into something else or someone else, and we don't recognize ourselves at that moment. When you face that uncertainty with resilience, you give yourself that chance to persevere, to find strength. And it really, to me, when I think about it, is a training that you go through. It's not as simple as say, okay, be resilient, and I wave a magic wand and you're resilient. It's not as simple as that. It needs work. It needs training. You need mental training, you need physical training. You need to go through practical steps in order to be resilient. You need to actually try different things to find the thing or the things that work for you. So it's all about the doing, the things that you do. It's not about the saying. I could sit here all day long and talk to you about what it means, why it's important, and give you several hundred examples if the time allows, and it won't help because you have to try it. You have to take those steps and try them in your own life, make them work for you because everybody goes through something different and everybody thinks about things differently. We don't all think about things the same way. So it's important to realize that it's the doing that happens after the learning that's important. That brings the change. It's not enough to just listen to something and then set it aside. You have to pick it up and try it. And when we train our brain, that's where it starts. You train your brain, and our brains are trainable to one, know that whatever adversity, challenge, problem, issue we're going through is going to pass. And there is an answer. We just have to find it. Okay, those two things. It becomes so much easier to think about the problem and brainstorm solutions. But if we come in the mindset of, I have a problem and it's unsolvable, I am not capable of solving it, I don't know what to do, you really create a sense of panic for yourself and you're shutting yourself down to create a solution. So let's push that aside and let's do this. Let's train our brain to think in a resilient way, in the flexible mindset. How do you train your brain? We consistently, first of all, self-talk, positive self-talk. We talk to ourselves, we tell ourselves, and we practice. One, that the situation we're in has an answer. The situation, the problem, the adversity, the challenge that we are in has a solution. There is an answer to it. I just need to find it. And two, I am capable of finding it. I am capable of learning from this experience. What happens after the training, you're going to put yourself through these situations, and you're going to think about your problems differently. And really, when you go through a problem and you go in that positive mindset, that flexible mindset, you're actually going to come out on the other side with a learned experience, a lived experience that you've learned from and be able to teach others from. This is where the love, learn, and lead comes from. And you're going to hopefully help others through their issues as well. Now, what about the professional side of things? This is my personal problems. I'm going through this. What can I be resilient in the workplace? Absolutely, 100%. Resilience is as essential in the workplace as it is for your personal life. Whether you're at a manager point of view, or leading a team, or you're the laborer, or just the person going to the office every day, you there are so many pressures and setbacks that we go through, in leadership, in leadership in particular requires resilience, and knowing when to step up and lead, and sometimes make the tough decisions, and when to let go or trust others. That is all part of resilience. So, being resilient is not only just for your personal uh, self, it's also for your professional self. And your your mindset that I keep referring back to, which we're going to talk about this more deeply later on, really helps in regardless of where you are, whether you're in the professional setting or your personal setting, or you're just dealing with the situation with your family, or you've got an argument with a coworker, with, you have a big problem with sales. Um, there's always a lesson to be learned from it. So, um, resilience looks different for everyone. Again, we each bring our own uniqueness to the table. We have a different way of learning. We have a different way of seeing things. We have a different way of taking things in and bringing things out. So it's not going to look the same for everyone. If the really, my resilience is going to look different from the way you handle handle problems, and how your resilience looks to everyone else. Um, Regardless of what you're going through, love the experience you're going through. I know I'm not making sense. Maybe it's really tough to hear. How do you love a challenge? How do you love a problem that's happening to you? This goes back to training your brain. You can train your brain to love these experiences after you find out these experiences really add to your level of expertise, to your level of strengths. It builds your personality. There's so much learning that happens. You grow as a person as a result, but only if you handle it in the right way. If this problem happens to you and you shy away from it and you go and hide somewhere, you're not going to learn anything from it, and you're not going to grow from this experience. But if you allow it to go through and you actually learn from it, um, there is so much change to your positive change to your personality that happens um, afterwards as a result. And that is why I say love that experience. And the more you see this, and the more you meet this with this positive mindset, this flexible mindset where you can adapt from problems, the more you'll see that these challenges actually give you expertise, and you're going to learn so much from them, and you're going to grow from them. And that's when you learn to appreciate. And that's when you're going to start asking the question, what am I going to learn from this? As opposed to asking, why is it happening to me? Which a lot of us ask when something happens to us. Why is it happening to me? So instead of asking that question, ask, what am I going to learn from this experience? So, the first step to building the resilience is going back and practicing training yourself to love the experience you're going through when you're going through hard times. You don't need to have all the answers. You may not have all the answers right away, but you have some answers. You don't need to, but what you need to do is have the mindset of, I can go out there and get the answers. I can solve this. I can get help and solve this. I'm not here by myself. And be kind to yourself while you're doing this. But keep going. Then learn from the experience you're going through, that challenge. What can you take away from these challenges you're facing? Just like the coffee bean, it transformed its environment. And you can choose to do the same thing, transform your environment and turn it into something new. You're going to find out that also it's a transformation for you too. And I'm going to bring in specific examples as we go through these in our upcoming episodes. Then lead, share these experiences. Don't keep them to yourself. We all learn from each other. And this is why I'm doing this, is because I've learned through my life that I want to be able to help others learn from it as well. We all learn from each other. So lead. Make sure that you are teaching what you're learning and you're sharing it with others. You're being generous. Or if you can't do any of that, let it go. Don't sit there and do the woe me. I just, this is happening to me, and just be miserable, you let it go. Forget about it. Move on. Go on to the next thing. What has been your experience in your life that you've learned from, or maybe let go of? Because that's also important. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share your story. There's so much we can learn from each other. Today, we explored the resilience, what it means, and why it matters in our life, but first, professional or personal. It's not about being too tough or unbreakable. It's about balancing strength and having the flexibility to adapt, whether it's loving the challenges you're going through, taking lessons, writing down what happens to you, learn from these setbacks, or saying, okay, it happened. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to move on. When it's time, you think it's good to let go. If you think about something and you can't learn anything from it, let it go. I think that's what I have to say about that. Resilience gives us the power to transform our lives. We to look at our environment most of the time, our environment may not be the best we think it is. So instead of just complaining about our environment, we adapt or we change it. That's the other one, right? We change our environment. In our next episode, we'll be diving deeper into learning from life's challenges, how the hardest moments can become our greatest teachers. And I'll be talking about different examples and bringing up some stories to share with you. And I hope to also hear from you and learn from your experiences of how you handle challenges. Don't forget to subscribe and set the reminder for episode 2. If you want to read the book, The Coffee Bean, it's one of the books that I keep in my library and I read often because it's such a great resilience reminder. It's such a great story from those two authors, and it helps me kind of think about myself as I don't want to be the carrot or the egg. I don't want to be too soft or too hard. I want to be the coffee bean that makes this great drink that we all enjoy and love. If today's episode inspired you, share it with someone who might need a little resilience in their life. Um, and remember, whether you are going through something at work or in your personal life, um, let's start with just one thing: telling yourself that there is an answer, we just have to find it. There is a solution, we just have to find it. And practice that. Practice telling yourself that so that you can continually train your brain to become more adaptable to situations. Let's keep building resilience together.